The kittens don't know what to make of it. There's a big black cat. He hates me. He wants me to open the door for him though. I don't know what to make of that snow. Imagine being homeless just now in that weather. Be absolutely horrible, wouldn't it? Right, today it's a bit of a rant. Sometimes if you don't say things, you're as guilty as the people doing the people that are doing the bad deeds. The world's in some state, isn't it? There's a conflict going on in the Ukraine. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I've not even switched on the news today. The Russian military fired 160 cruise missiles and hundreds of drones into the Ukraine. They said it was to whack Ukrainian air defences and weapons deliveries from the West. Ukrainian says they were targeting schools and shopping centres and hospitals and stuff like that. You don't know who to believe, do you? Then you've got Gaza, which is one of the most satanic things I've ever seen in my entire life. Do you want to get it? It's absolutely horrific. You've got a space that's not any bigger than the Isle of Arran in Scotland. 2 million people live in it. And it's just under constant attack. When I switch on the social media, some of the images I'm seeing, they're absolutely mind-bending. When I was a kid in South Africa, they had a thing called an apartheid government. And the people were racially segregated and black people were treated like crap. It was run by a bunch of psycho white supremacists. Now the government back then told us that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. I think he was involved in a couple of murders. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, maybe he wasn't, maybe I've just really bad mouthed an icon, a human rights icon. But anyway, the government told us the African National Congress were deemed as a terrorist organisation and Nelson Mandela was a terrorist, but we could see in the television the way these people were being treated. We had some decent journalists back then. Yeah, the media is as controlled now as it was back then, but we had some decent journalists. And it was fairly obvious to everyone that what was happening in South Africa was really, really wrong. You know, if finally, after a few years, the government was brought down and some semblance of normality was brought to the political system in South Africa. So these things, they can be fixed, you know. So where was I going with this? What's happening in Gaza is worse than what happened in apartheid South Africa. I'm 57 years old, 58 years old. I don't even know how old I am. In my life I've seen some really horrible, nasty stuff, but I mean, this is possibly the cherry in the cake. 7,000 or 8,000 kids, their arms missing, side of their heads blown off. And it's the same thing. Why did I talk about South Africa? Because it's the exact same thing. As a people, we know what's happening over there is horrific. As a people, we can see there's what they call the Israeli government fascists. They're genocidal maniacs. We know this is wrong. We can watch in just about real time and see what the Israeli government are doing. We listen to the politicians and the spokespeople from their military, and these people, they're demons. They are ghouls. They're just trying to justify slaughtering kids, and I'm a father. That's bad potatoes, you know. God knows how they poor people feel are actually in Palestine just now. Then there's a really interesting one with it as well. What is Israel? Is it a homeland for a religious group, a persecuted religious group? Or is it a static military base that's used as an imperialist tool to try to control oil-producing countries? So what did I say there? Is it a religious state for a persecuted group of people? Or is it a military base, an American military base, to enable America's lifeblood's oil, isn't it? The dollar's based on oil. The Arabian Peninsula is absolutely full of this stuff. America owns and controls Israel, doesn't it? They pay all the bills for them. They pay. It's really funny analogy. In Israel, they've got a health service that's paid for by the state, which is basically paid for by the American taxpayer. And in America, they don't have as good a health system. So American tax money is going to Israel to pay wages for government officers, the military and all this type of thing, as is the Ukraine. The Ukraine's not getting any money, and that's not getting any GDP. The only reason that's still breathing as a country, and I don't think it's going to be a country much longer, is because of American and European money. The Russians didn't want NATO expanding closer to their border, and what the Russians are doing is absolutely horrific. I've read there's casualty figures of between 350 to 500,000 Ukrainian military personnel have been killed. Apparently, the average killed in action ratio to the average KIA to wounded is usually for every serviceman that's killed, and that's mano a mano, it's men slaughtering each other on an industrial scale. It's a human mincing machine. I've heard the average ratios. It takes about 3 injured or wounded to 1 killed in action. So if the casualty figures on the Ukrainian side are correct, you're looking at between 1 million to 1.5 million Ukrainian men have been maimed, and 300,000 to 500,000 killed. And that's happening in real time as I'm filming my cats in the snow. So the Russians didn't want American nuclear weapons moving towards the border. They didn't want NATO expansion. They've been going on about this since the end of the communist era. The Americans wouldn't listen to them. The Europeans just treated the Russians like second-class citizens, didn't they? There's always been slight anti-Russian racism. Maybe it's justified when you can see the actions of their government and what they're doing in the Ukraine. They've flattened entire side. However, I'm losing my train of thought here. The Russians didn't want NATO moving towards the border. They've been going on about for years. Finally, they went, nah, we're not having any of this. And now they took military action. Was there no one that would sit down and talk to them to arrange some kind of settlement where NATO wouldn't push to its borders? Are the 300,000 dead Ukrainians? Are the 1 million injured Ukrainians? Was that too much a price? So that America would have the right to put nuclear weapons next to... It's became very obvious Russia is a military superpower, isn't it? Possibly the best military in the world, possibly the best military the world's ever seen. What's a good military? It's a thing that's got the ability to destroy and kill, isn't it? So the people on the planet that are best at killing and destroying people just now are the Russian military. It's not a great title to have, but I mean, look at the history. They've been invaded from their west a few times, and it's been catastrophic for them. So you can see why they're angry. I'm not trying to justify what they've did, but my point is, did nobody in the West sit down and think, maybe we should talk to these people, come up to some kind of security arrangement with them? And that brings us back to Palestine, Gaza, doesn't it? people, what do the Palestinians want? The way they live, it's a compound that's got a big wall round about it with machine gun points and stuff. It's like something that in Nazi Germany or the Warsaw Ghetto or something. Although the perpetrators have been changed, hasn't it? The oppressed religious group are now the people doing the oppression. So what did the Palestinians want? To be able to live their lives freely and not under an apartheid government. As I said earlier on, if we can bring down apartheid in South Africa, we can do it in Israel just now. So the next one I'm going to say about Israel, the Islamic countries in that area, they should be ashamed of themselves. They really should. Syria is on fire. That's an American-Israeli war, isn't it? The Syrian army have fought like lions, but I don't think their country's destroyed. They're not in a position to really help out the Palestinians very much. And every other country in the area has just sat back and did nothing apart from one, the Houthis. They're called Amr and Shallah. The Yemenis have actually turned around and went, Now, where the Arabian Peninsula is, on that side you've got the Straits of Hormuz. Iran's over there. It's a narrow body of water. So the Iranians can affect heavily what travels in and out the Strait of Hormuz. The other side is the Red Sea in Yemen, controls a small piece of water. The Yemenis have says to the world, there's no Israeli ships going up there. They're allowing other ships going up there. And again, the typical American response to it, when I talk about America, I'm talking about the American government, I'm talking about the political system, I'm not talking about the people. I've worked with Americans since I was a kid, and when I say America, I mean the USA. I'm sorry about this, because America is a couple of continents, isn't it? The USA's government decided, the Yemenis' two conditions were to allow aid into Palestine and to stop bombing. Instead of talking to the Yemenis, the Americans and the British, the usual suspects, and I'm not talking about British people, I'm not talking about American people, the usual suspects have sent their military in there to try to protect Israel's right to slaughter Palestinian kids. Think about it. It's a similar thing with Russia. Nobody thought about sitting down and talking to the Russians and saying, okay, look, this has went on too far. The conflict in the Ukraine's over. There's still a lot of fighting going on. There's still a lot of stuff's going to get blown up, but that's over. The Russians have won. I thought they would have went in the way they did in World War II and just blow everything up. The way they've conducted that military campaign is astonishing. They built a big defensive line, so right, bring everything over here. And then anything that went anywhere near the defences got annihilated. Then they just look for weapons deliveries going into the Ukraine and take them out with cruise missiles. I mean, when it comes to high-tech warfare, they've got it, but I drifted off the point yet again. Why isn't anybody sitting down with the Russian government and saying this has to stop? I'm on social media, and when you see Twitter, the amount of people saying send more weapons in, we've been doing that for 2 years. The Russians have effectively taken out 3 militaries that the West have given to the Ukraine. We're kind of on our 4th. Anything we're sending is just getting wasted. Who's making the cash out of this? Weapons manufacturers, isn't it? And it's proven that the NATO weapon systems are absolute rubbish when they come up against a peer, or I would consider the Russian military to be a better than peer military than what NATO have got. There was a great one of a Patriot air defence system getting taken out with a hypersonic missile. The Patriot air defence system was designed to take out missiles. The Russians overpowered it with drones, then hit the thing. I believe the radar systems, command post and missile batteries for the Patriot cost $400 million. That's nearly $500 million. Then it was firing off missiles that cost £1 or £2 million each. At least 30 or 40 of them when they get hit. That's not a good weapon system, you know. Who's going to want to buy that? So nobody sat down with the Russians and says this has got to stop. And nobody has says to the Israelis this has got to stop. There is a darkness and a sickness at the heart of Western governments, isn't there? Their answer to everything is send in more weapons. If somebody's prepared to die for them, they'll just stoke the fire and keep it going, you know. So the Houthis have just said to the Israelis, there's nothing moving up the Red Sea. Rather than sit down and talk to the Israelis and say, stop bombing Gaza and let humanitarian aid in, the Western response was to send in ships to kill these people, to attack Yemen. This is sinister stuff, you know. We're finding it difficult. We've got homeless people in Scotland. I interviewed one a few weeks ago. We've got real problems in this country. High energy prices and stuff like that, but the one problem this country doesn't have is its ability to back wars. You know, from the bottom of my heart, I find the whole thing disgusting. So what was it called? Prosperity Guardian? Operation Prosperity Guardian, I think that's what it's called. The American says, yeah, we'll just start bombing more and more countries, and the Europeans all jumped in and thought, yeah, it's a great idea, you know. And the Yemenis started hitting Israeli ships with cruising ballistic missiles, I believe. One of them set a new target. They fired a ballistic missile from, I think it was 400 kilometres and hit a ship that was moving at 25 knots. I think in military history that had never been done before. So again, instead of sitting down with the Israelis and going, right, let's get some aid into this flattened city, you stop bombing them, then the Yemenis will allow oil trade. Typical American, British, European response was to try to threaten to bomb these countries, but I don't think they can. I think as a political or a military chess manoeuvre, what the Yemeni people, Yemen's a very, very poor country, and they've had the balls to stand up against everything that NATO and America can throw at them, so bless those poor people, you know. And I think if Yemen's attacked, American aircraft carriers, British warships are all going to start going to the bottom of the Red Sea, you know. And again, this is over Israel's right to continue to bomb something the size of Ireland that's got 2 million people. So sorry about bringing politics into the channel. It's not what it's about, is it? However, there's a thing, isn't there? If you don't speak up about injustice or wrongdoing, you're kind of condoning it. I don't know what the answer is to this. Anytime if I'm on Twitter, I've got literally thousands of people blocked, but the Twitter algorithms keep on throwing up Labour Party MPs and Tory guys. They usually block them in sight. What I'm doing now is asking them a question: why are you supporting the slaughter of children? You know, they're coming on about talking about the economy and stuff like this. And I'm just trolling them till they block me. Maybe send emails to them, send letters to them, keep the demonstrations up. But the Israeli government are operating an apartheid, racist, borderline fascist regime, aren't they? It has to stop them. If we don't say things about it, we're complicit, we're guilty. So, politics. We need to get, it's up to, I can't do anything about what Joe Biden's up to. That guy, I don't think he can tie his own shoelaces. I can't do anything about him, but I can harangue my local politicians. We can find out who voted for ceasefires and who voted against ceasefires, put the pressure on these people. They are scum. You know, they're all £70,000 a year, £100,000 a year jobs, walking about talking about climate change and all the rest of it. Then when it comes to this genocide, they are scum. You know, anybody that voted against a ceasefire, think about that. We've seen images of cities flattened, kids with the side of their head blown off. And find out who voted against the ceasefire, and I mean, literally, these people are scum, you know, just treat them as such. They're as bad as murderers or any other criminals imaginable. They're just doing it on an industrial scale. Right, sorry about negativity, but as I says, I'd rather talk about it. And is this my bit? Pity help the poor, pity help the homeless, and pity help the men in the Ukraine and the kids in Gaza. Alrighty, thanks for watching. Back to oil pumps, back to building, back to all that stuff soon, and doesn't Scotland scrub up wellness now?